Hello, economics students. Hey, today we're going to bring back our old friend supply and demand graphing for a little bit. And what I'm showing you here is the supply and demand for money and how that's going to impact prices, that is the value of the dollar and the prices of goods and services. And we're going to look at a couple of different graphs, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, notice the oddity of the supply lines here. I'm showing supply for money as being completely inelastic. What that means is that the supply is going to be fixed unless the Federal Reserve changes it. The supply of money will not be responsive to things like changes in prices for money, changes in the interest rate, for example. It's going to be fixed by the Federal Reserve. So we're going to start off with S1, and S1 is the supply of money, and here we have the demand for money. And P over here, the price, stands for the value of our money, the value of the dollar, okay? So if we decide to increase the money supply, that is, the Fed is going to allow the supply of money to increase, we're going to move to S2. And look what happens to the value of the dollar in this event. An increase in the money supply is going to have the effect of lowering the value of our currency, the value of the dollar. So that's an important thing to remember. Increases in money supply, if the increase in money supply is at a faster pace than the growth in the population, you will reduce the value of our money. Okay, and as you know, money or income is one of the factors that impacts the demand for goods and services. So if we increase the value, if we increase the supply of money, that's going to have the effect of increasing the aggregate demand for all of the goods and services that our economy produces. AD stands for aggregate demand, AS for aggregate supply. And when we use those terms aggregate, we mean the demand or the supply of everything that our economy produces. So if we increase the money supply, that's going to increase the total income of people in the United States, and that means that the aggregate demand is going to increase, since income is one of those things that can cause a change in demand. Now, as we change the demand for goods and services in our economy, what's going to happen? Well, an increase in demand will force an increase in prices. And here, the P stands for the average price of all goods and services that are produced in our economy. So, as you increase demand faster than the growth in the population, that is going to cause prices to increase. That means we're going to have inflation. Okay, so the increase in the money supply, if it goes faster than the increase in the population, will increase demand for aggregate goods and services in our economy, and that will create inflation. Remember that. Now, obviously, the opposite will happen if we decrease the supply of money, which the Fed has the power to do. So if we decrease the supply of our money, that means that the value of the dollar will actually increase. We'll go from P1 to P2. By decreasing the supply of dollars in the economy, the value of the dollar will increase. And look what happens to the supply and demand for goods and services. If we decrease the supply of money, that's one of those factors that, again, will change demand for goods and services. A decrease in the supply of money will result in a decrease in incomes, assuming that that decrease is at a rate that exceeds the change in population. So, a decrease in demand will cause prices for goods and services in our economy to go from P1 to P2, and you can see what happens there. Prices go down. We are fighting inflation. So the Federal Reserve in an inflationary period will try to slow down that growth of money, perhaps even decrease the supply of money, and that will have a deflationary tendency. It will tend to slow down the inflation and get inflation under control. So just wanted to bring this supply and demand graphing back to your attention. I would expect you to be able to reproduce these graphs if asked. So with that, we're going to stop our short presentation on the supply and demand of money and the supply and demand of goods and services that result from money creation or money destruction. All right, have a good day and continue on with whatever it says to do in Canvas.